Coworkers, bosses, and office politics. Oh my. Once we leave the house for work every day, the words self-care pretty much disappear from our vocabulary. But today I have a few tips on how to incorporate a little bit of self-care into the workday. Hey friends! Welcome back to Simply Bentley. If you're new here, thanks for stopping by, and I hope that you'll hit the subscribe button and the notification bell so you never miss out on a video. I make videos every week about self-care, mindfulness, and positive living. Workplaces come in all shapes, sizes, and different atmospheres, but the one thing that they generally have in common is that once we go there, we don't think about self-care anymore for the day. And sometimes the unintended consequence of this is that we get home, we're stressed out, we're frazzled, or worse yet, we even bring the work home with us. So today I've got some things that we can do in order to make sure that we're finding ways to care about our mental health throughout the day and then also when we get home in the evening. The first thing that we're going to do is find ourselves a trigger that's going to remind us to come back to our breath. Sometimes when we get into the workplace and we get really stressed out, we don't realize how shallow that our breathing becomes and we get very caught up in the moment. And we need a trigger to remind us to come back to our breath, take a few deep breaths, and just let everything out. And I'm not talking with a scream in the back room, although sometimes we kind of want to do that. But maybe go outside before you do. That's probably a better idea. But take this time as a moment for yourself. Our work days generally revolve around taking care of other people's tasks, their agendas. So find that thing, whether it's whenever you log onto your computer. As you type your password, you hit enter, just pause. Let your computer do its computery thing and pause and take 3 to 5 deep breaths and just let it sink into you. This is your time. This is going to give you a place of calm from which you can approach the rest of your tasks throughout the day, and bonus points if your trigger happens more than once a day. For me at the salon, what I like to do is when I go back to mix up color, I set a bowl on the scale to put the color in, and then I just pause for a second before I start rummaging through all my color tubes to pick out what I need. I just pause and I take a deep breath. And this is really beneficial in my job, being a job where I have to care for other people and help them to feel good. Taking those breaths and coming back to myself just reminds me, hey, this person comes to you because they trust you and you make them feel good. And it gives me a spot from which I can go because I have focused on myself for a minute, so now I am fully free to focus on that other person. The next step for creating some self-care around your work is to distance yourself from office politics, drama, or anything else that would cause you to bring your work home with you. And in some offices or some work situations, this is going to be easier than others. If you drive a garbage truck all day and you sit by yourself driving your garbage truck, it's probably a little bit easier than if you're in an office with cubicles but you can still see over them and you can hear other people's conversations. It's going to be a little easier for somebody who drives a garbage truck or any other kind of truck by themselves than somebody who sits in an office with a bunch of other coworkers to distance themselves from that. But do your best and try not to feed into the beast, because as we all know, and as I've mentioned in videos before, when we feed the beast, it rears its ugly head and it makes things worse. And a side effect of feeding the beast is that generally, once you become fully immersed in office drama and politics, you tend to take on all that negativity and then you bring it home with you and you gripe at your spouse and all these other things. And that doesn't have to be a part of our lives. Some places, yes, it does seem there are a lot of office politics, and like I said, every work situation is very unique, and it's very unique dependent on your coworkers, so do your best to stay out of as much of it as you can, and when you walk out the door, let that be another trigger for you that this stays here. I don't have to take that home with me, and I don't want to take it home with me. I'm really fortunate that my coworkers are like my family, but if you're not as lucky to have coworkers that you enjoy, at least try to distance yourself from them on a social level so that you're not taking on a lot of their drama and politics and negativity or whatever it is that's not working for you. And the most important part of self-care at work is to find the value in what you do and do it the best you can. Maybe we're not all working dream jobs, and that's what happens sometimes when you have to pay the bills. But you're in a position for a reason to do a job so you can make money and support yourself and your family. The best way that I can explain this is with the example of a job that I had when I was 16 years old. I got a job in a nursing home as what they called a unit aide. So my job was to do bedding, laundry, and pass ice water to each room and monitor the dining room of this nursing home. And the lady who trained me, she was former military and very serious about her job. But what I learned from her was so much more important than how to do my job. I learned the importance of what I was doing. Anything that we folded in that laundry room was crisp, and when you stacked those stacks of laundry up, oh my gosh, you could cut yourself. The corners were so sharp. And when she was training me, she did not let anything slide. Nothing. I refolded so many towels, and not because I didn't want to do a good job, but just because it was like, oh, okay, I'm folding the towel, whatever. No. She found the value in having these nice tight stacks of laundry so that we could move them easily, so they weren't falling all over the place. She took pride when she was passing ice water and greeting every single person whose room that she went into, because at this nursing home, I mean, that's their home. That's where they live. And she made it her mission to bring a little joy to every person she came in contact with. And then in the dining room, she knew what most of those people wanted before she even went to their table. She would still ask, but she might say, hey, are we doing hot tea today? Or whatever the thing is that they wanted, because these people really enjoyed that she knew what they liked, and she was making sure to be on top of it and take care of them in that way. And it's a small thing, but when you do your job with such pride, and you are grateful for your job and you feel good about the work that you do. Because once I was done being trained and I was on my own, I would come in for my shift, which was after school, it was the evening shift, and sometimes I would walk into the laundry room and the stacks of laundry were just all over the place, and I would literally go through, restack everything so it stayed nice on the shelf, they weren't falling over, everything was organized, and it made me feel good. It made me feel good to take that much pride in my work. So when you find the value of what you're doing and see how it's important, it is going to create such intrinsic value for you that you just feel good about your job then. It doesn't mean that you love your work or that you love leaving your home to go to work every day, but once you're there, it makes it a little more bearable, and that in itself is totally worth it. So give me a thumbs up if this sounds like a good idea or something that you think would benefit your workday, and let me know down below, what thing are you going to choose to be a trigger to return to yourself and give yourself some self-care during your workday. Thank you so much for being here and watching. I appreciate every single one of you, and I will see you next week for another video. See you later.